Hey everyone, and welcome to The Real Life Show. We're back for episode 3 of The Real Life Show. We're 3 months into The Real Life Show journey. Sarah, are you enjoying it?
I am loving
It's
this.
good, isn't it? We've had
Loving it.
4 wonderful guests.
Yep.
Not as wonderful as our guest today. It's Jacqui. Welcome, Jacqui.
That's
All the other
favouritism a little bit.
Sorry to the
That's a bit
Passmore
of
guests. I love
favouritism,
you all.
isn't it?
I do love Jacqui a lot though. Welcome, Jacqui.
Thank you.
I was speaking to you not long ago.
Yeah.
You've been to Backyard Cafe a
I
couple of
have.
times. And
Yes.
what did you say about Backyard Cafe food?
Absolutely amazing.
Oh.
Oh, the
Wonderful.
breakfast.
Thank you,
For
Backyard.
breakfast. What would be your order?
Oh.
Well, now I'm veggie.
Oh.
Big news. Big
Didn't
news.
know that.
Big news.
Real
It'd have
life?
to be more of a egg kind of based.
Oh.
Yeah, or vegetarian sausage if there is.
What's the?
I
Can
would
you
say they
share
do
the
have it.
reason for going veggie?
It's not about the animal, Sarah. I've got to be honest. It's
Okay.
not.
Good
It's
understand.
about health.
Oh.
Trying to be more
I love
healthy.
that. It's not about the animals.
Sorry
It's
about
honesty.
that.
That is honesty.
This is the real life show.
This is The Real Life Show.
I've got to
And
be
I love
honest.
that we've gone straight into a
Straight
question.
in with
It's a bit of a thing, that is. That's quite a
You've
revelation.
been really vulnerable there really early on.
It's a big
I like that,
revelation.
I like that. But yeah, thank you to Backyard for having us
Yeah.
once again. It's
Thank
so
you.
lovely that you have us here.
Yeah.
But we're going to get straight into it.
Okay.
We're going to get straight into it. We're going to
Yeah.
have a catch up first of all.
Yeah.
Get to know you a little bit. Jack, tell us who you are, what you do, and maybe what you do within church. A little bit.
Okay, so I'm Jacqui.
Yes.
I am a nurse,
Ooh.
work at the local hospital, Russell's Hall, with people with learning disabilities, which I absolutely love. I've got 3 children, adult children, very grown up now, all married. I've just become a nanny for the first
Oh,
time.
we've seen the photos.
Oh, she's just
Oh.
beautiful. And in church, I just love to serve. Well, I love people. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
So I'm involved in lots of things. So Alpha is a big kind of serving that I love doing, and the team is wonderful. Flourish, I'm really excited about Accessible Church.
Yeah.
So working with people with learning disabilities, serve on the welcome team.
Yeah.
Recently joined the senior leadership team.
Whoa, you do a
What
lot.
don't you do,
She's
Jacqui?
I also go on mission.
Oh.
So I've been part of the Bosnia pampering team for
Nice.
11 years now. Yeah,
Wow.
so it's,
Wow.
11 years.
yeah, so that's been an amazing kind of journey
Yeah.
to be part of. So,
And the
Yeah.
senior leadership team, that's like a relatively recent
yes.
thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
really new.
And you are a very valuable member
very like,
Valuable.
really?
of the
You-
senior
really?
leadership team.
But I've
I'm
really
grateful.
enjoyed it, and yeah, it's just a real privilege to be part of that team. Such fantastic people. And
Yeah.
I love it.
Amazing.
That's
And
amazing.
what is actually your job title at the hospital?
So,
Jacqui?
I am the lead nurse for people with learning disabilities.
Okay.
So I lead
Lead
all of the
nurse?
kind of, any of the processes in the organisation that have to include people with a learning disability. So, yeah, they sit on my desk and I have to kind of make it happen.
Yeah.
Like the national agenda, which is huge, right down to the local agenda. So there's so much that we do, adults
Yeah.
and children. Only today I've been talking to families who are transitioning from an adult, like a child's kind of service into an adult service.
Mm.
And imagine that's really scary
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
for most people, but for
Yeah.
people who've got additional needs, it's terrifying because they've been used
Yeah.
to one ward and one group of doctors, and
Yeah.
then they can come into hospital and be anywhere. So that's our job, to support them
Mm.
whichever way they need to. I found myself in MRI scanners. I've found myself holding someone's hand while they're having an injection. I've been in an operating theatre
Have you?
watching someone having lumps taken off their neck.
Wow.
So yeah, well, wide and varied.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a big job, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
it's-
very
It's a
demanding.
huge responsibility.
Yeah.
But I'm really blessed to be able to serve people again in that way. And obviously the two worlds collide a little bit because seeing
Flourish,
people in Flourish,
Yeah.
they're also people that I've supported in the
Yeah.
hospital. So
Oh, that's amazing.
it's like,
isn't it?
that's my nurse
Yeah.
when they come in. I'm like,
Yeah.
hello.
I was about to say, is that what's led you to Flourish and what has brought your heart for that?
I think it's always been something that was really always there because I think because I'm used to making things accessible for
Yeah.
people,
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to make Jesus accessible for people.
Wow.
but not in a childish way. Because
Yeah.
I think, you know, I'm talking about adults, it's not Sunday school. And I think the kind of historical way of talking to people with a learning disability has been to make it a little childlike.
Yeah.
And Laura and I really didn't want that. We wanted it to be like life application.
Yeah.
So how you can kind of live well for Jesus, how you can shine for Jesus, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I find myself dressed up as a spaceman.
Yes.
Seen the videos.
We've
Yeah, it's
seen
very.
that.
I think the videos were circulating at one point.
Maybe actually we could pop it in
Oh,
right now.
can you do that?
Please don't.
Yeah, I was going to pop that in.
Can you do that?
I can pop that in.
Please don't. Please don't.
So you and Laura,
Yes.
Jacqui and Laura, you are at Inclusive Church Leeds.
Yes,
How long
yes.
have you been doing it? How long
Well,
has it been a thing?
It's been at our church for around 4 years now.
Yes. It came from
Amblecote
Smiths.
Church, yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole kind of concept has been going on for, I would say, about 10, 15 years,
Wow,
really.
that's
So,
amazing.
Yeah.
and a regular group of people. So we have about 50 people come
Yeah.
from all across the borough.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
And it's once a month, isn't it?
Once a month, yeah.
And you do
Yeah.
like worship, a message,
Yeah,
kind of stuff
worship, message. We do a bit of craft.
Like that.
We have a
Love
little
that.
snack.
You gotta have a snack.
Sometimes the craft is a snack.
Oh, nice.
It's amazing.
Sounds something there.
We're onto something
Craft
there.
that's a snack.
It's very good.
So thanks, Jacqui.
Yeah.
Thanks for introducing
go.
yourself. So we want to do like a bit of a timeline.
Okay.
And so we're going to jump straight in.
Woo.
And so can you tell us, share a little bit about your childhood, like set a bit of context for
Yeah,
us?
of course. So, my parents were absolutely the best parents in the world. So, I'm an only child.
Mhm.
Little,
Didn't know
little
that.
known by
Didn't know that
some.
either.
Yeah, no
Oh.
siblings, just me. And the three of us were like incredibly close. So, like the Three Musketeers kind of thing.
Oh,
And did everything together. So, just a really joyful, happy childhood.
lovely.
I think looking back now, there were a lot of kind of Christian principles that mum and dad had got, but were not kind of churchgoers or anything like that. So really, like, I don't know, kind of served their neighbours. Like my dad used to decorate for people and mum would do their cleaning if they
Wow.
needed anything, a bit of shopping, but never kind of made a big fuss about that. So I kind of grew up with those principles really of helping others and kind of supporting people who needed help really. So we just had a blast, had a
Did
great
you?
a great time. So as I say, never went to church, never did anything. Mom was kind of confirmed Church of England. Went to Sunday school, all that kind of thing. Very proud of that. But yeah, nothing as a child that I even kind of knew about church. It was kind of weddings, funerals, christenings kind of
Wow.
thing. So yeah, that was early childhood, and then kind of just the three of us did holidays together and all that kind of stuff. And then I guess when I went to high school, I sort of learnt a little bit about being a bit of the joker in the pack, if you like.
We still have that version of you sometimes.
So yeah, I became a bit of a rebel.
Did
Oh.
you?
Again, little known
Bit of a
information.
rogue.
Were you a bit of a class clown?
I was
Oh,
I was also
this is great. Like,
I was
Brilliant.
heavily into punk rock.
whoa!
What is going on?
It's the truth.
You have flowers in your hair.
This is actually
I had
brilliant.
orange hair,
Whoa!
I know.
Wow.
wore lace trousers. And
Nice.
Very. God, that was the age of 14 and 15. So I was quite.
How orange?
Well, at the time, because it is a little bit of
We
a
need
while ago
photos.
now, it was henna, so it was really quite of a
wow.
odd orange, I suppose. It's the best way to describe it. But orange nonetheless.
Yeah. That's orange.
So yeah, at that point, kind of a rebel. And I think looking back now, I can see that God really had his hand on my life then,
Wow.
because I was protected in environments that were a bit unsavoury, shall we say.
Okay, yeah.
Shan't go into too much detail. But yeah, one particular night, I shall tell you this story. Came back from a concert in Birmingham, and I'd lost my shoes in the concert because it was like the mosh pit that I was in,
Yeah.
and I was like,
It happened.
lost my shoes. So I had to come back on the train with carrier bags on my feet. Not good. So there's been lots of things that I could tell you about. But that was, I guess, 14, 15, that was when, I was probably more of a rebel than you would even imagine me to be
Yeah.
now.
So how did your parents react to the rebellious stage?
They were a little surprised, I think, but went with it, bless them. They were very kind
Bless
of.
them.
In fact, I remember Mum and Dad. Oh, this is quite embarrassing. Helping to me to get into very tight trousers.
Oh.
By the three of us in quite. Dad held the bottom, Mum held the top, and I tried to zip them up with a coat hanger.
For fashion.
For fashion's
For
sake.
fashion.
I
Yeah.
love that they came with you
They
on this
really-
rebellious
it's like-
journey.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of, Jacqueline.
Oh.
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline.
Oh.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll have orange hair.
I'm sure about these trousers that I can't move in.
Jacqueline. Oh, you'll never walk in them.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a bit of an insight.
Yeah. So you weren't brought up in a Christian home.
No.
So
Nope.
how did you come to know and follow Jesus?
So, as a lot of people do, it was because of a boy. So yeah, there was someone who had come to our school to play table tennis. I was at the table tennis match because I kind of liked a boy there.
Okay.
Not that man.
Another boy.
Another boy. The rebel.
Is this the
Wow.
rebellious stage?
Yeah. Anyway, it transpired that the person who'd come from another school asked someone that I was friends with, who was the girl that was at the table tennis match. Well, there was only me there.
Oh.
So anyway, that's how it all happened. So that was the person that I married, and he took me to church. So it was Dudley Church that I went to with him. And again, I'd never known anything like that kind of environment. It was so unusual, like really lively. So Pastor Chamberlain, Gerald Chamberlain was the pastor.
Oh, wow.
And Paul and Gail were my youth leaders.
Yeah.
So I came into that kind of environment around the age of 15, 16. And I do honestly remember the first time I was in a meeting that, that what I now know was the Holy Spirit kind of prompting me when someone kind of said, if you want to put your hand up now to know more about Jesus, you can. And I honestly thought, I need to do it. But I didn't because I was a bit scared. But that kind of understanding of that was what it was came a bit later. I was a bit nervous about how I felt inside, to be honest, because I didn't know what that was. But then very quickly became a regular member of the youth group, which we used to have great fun. Paul and Gail were fantastic youth leaders. I mean, they were fantastic church leaders, weren't they? But youth leaders, we had such fun.
Just to let everybody know, Pastors Paul and Gail were the founding pastors of what is now Arise Church. So we love Pastors Paul and Gail very, very much. So I didn't know that. They were the youth pastors at the church you started going to, so your first church.
Yep.
Wow.
So I think they got their oldest son then, and I remember when Matthew was born. So as a youth group, we all kind of looked after him, and he was like Judy's now. He was like the lovely little lad that we all played with, and so those kind of memories are really vivid for me. So I think they're about 10 years older than me, but at the time, it felt like they were loads older. Yeah. So they were amazing. Obviously still are amazing, but as youth leaders.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it all started, and I think during that time, I made a decision that I wanted to become a Christian, and that's how it started really, and I continued to go to that church for a long time.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We love hearing. That's why we normally start with how did you get to know Jesus, because we love that moment where where someone makes that decision. And it maybe wasn't a moment, but it was a period of time.
I think it was. It was more of a
Yeah,
process,
yeah.
and I remember Gail always saying, and she often would say this: people have to belong sometimes before they believe.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
and that feeling of belonging was something I'd not experienced before.
Yeah.
Even though I was, got friends at school and
Yeah.
obviously messing around and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But there it was really different.
Yeah.
And lifelong friends.
Yeah.
Like now I'm still in touch with those friends.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
that's really good.
So that was then, and you've alluded to a couple of things there. You've alluded to your marriage there a
Yeah.
little bit, and a couple of other things. And obviously, we know the Jacqui of now, but there's a lot of time in between there. So do you want to just unpack a couple of things there that you've alluded to, and just take us further down the timeline a little bit?
Okay. So yeah, as I said, the time at church was fantastic, and then as we've said, Paul and Gail left that church to start Calvary Church.
Yeah.
And at that point, my then boyfriend and I were asked to be youth leaders.
Wow.
So we stepped into the youth lead role. And another little known fact, that Rachel Wadhams was in my youth group.
Oh,
I was her
wow.
youth group leader.
Who was a future youth pastor of our church?
You see, all of our stories are
How cool is that?
intertwined. So, yeah, I guess fast forward a little while, then we got married, and we then very quickly had a family. So I found myself with 3 children under the age of 3 within 3 years of being married.
Wow.
Jacqui.
So it was a hectic time, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But a great time, crazy but great. And I guess it's fair to say that there were highs and lows in our marriage, and there were some difficult times. That, I think walking through a life with Jesus, it's never promised that it's all easy, and we know that. But I can honestly say I never felt alone in those times. Even though, and I've said this before, I did sometimes feel lonely in the marriage. I never felt alone because I'd got Jesus with me.
Yeah.
And sometimes that felt more real than others. Sometimes there was, probably because of myself, I think I'd probably tried to do a lot in my own strength, maybe, rather than I never ran away from the Lord, but I think sometimes I got a bit busy with things. And as I say, there were some difficult times. And I clearly remember the kind of crux of the issue around a difficult time when we'd gone through another really hard process of forgiveness, that kind of thing. And I really cried out to God and said, I don't know what to do now this time. And I know that God spoke to me, and God speaking to you is different for lots of different people, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's like I had a thought in my head that wasn't mine. And I can only explain that. That's the only way I can
That's great.
talk about when God speaks to me in those ways. It was not of me, and it was, you have done enough. And I really honestly felt that was God saying that at this point, it was time for an end to that marriage, which that was really hard. That wasn't actually what I wanted to hear God say, if I'm honest, because that felt like, oh, really? Because obviously when you get married, the vows are real.
Yeah.
Very real. We've all witnessed fantastic marriages, haven't we? And wedding ceremonies, and that's only the start, isn't it? But it was definitely God saying, you've done enough.
Yeah.
So that was then the decision that I made, that it was time to get divorced.
Yeah.
Which was incredibly difficult with young children as well. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of a rush through that.
That's great,
and it's been a difficult kind of journey, I guess, more than anything else, to kind of come to the point of now being there's lots of different ways to be single, and we talk about this a lot, don't we? There's people who are divorced who are single. There are people who are widowed who are single. There are people who are never married who are single. And I understand that that's where I'm at this time. I'm open to whatever God wants for me.
Yeah.
But I'm at peace now with where I am, and really very, very happy. And that's honest, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the journey of looking after raising 3 kids as a single parent was, again, rewarding, challenging. I've got 3 fantastic adult kids, 2 sons and a daughter who I'm very, very close to. The 4 of us are really great friends, I think, which is really important. So yeah, that's kind of that part of my life, I guess.
So there's obviously there's a lot that happened just there as well. So,
yeah.
And already, like, it's a story which is like got power. Like, you can see the power that where you are and how happy you are right now, Jacqui. Is like it's a wow moment, isn't it? But I'm just, what were fundamentals in that time, like going through that marriage which wasn't happy all the time? What were fundamentals in your life which you now look back and you think that was so important to have that time to keep your faith, to keep yourself in church?
It was difficult. It was difficult because we kind of went into our marriage as a couple who were serving God together.
Wow, yeah.
But that changed, not really quickly, but gradually. There was this kind of, and again, this word that is often used in church, like backsliding, which is a weird word, I think. But it basically, for me, was not involving God as much as I always thought he would be in our marriage.
Yeah.
And that was quite a difficult kind of concept to really be real with.
Yeah.
And I quickly established my own kind of, I need this to be a real relationship with God for me.
Yeah.
I don't need to be on the back of anyone else. And I think sometimes that can happen. But for me, that was a really clear kind of moment that I needed to know God for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about that sometimes, don't we, from Christian parents, that kind of thing. But this was, my relationship with God was very intermeshed with someone else in the way that we were serving.
Yeah.
And when that changed, that was a real kind of shift for me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, trying to make sure that the Christian principles within a household, I really wanted that to be there front and centre.
Yeah.
That was at times that was a tension. You know, like Sundays, is it church or is it something else? And sometimes it had to be something else. Yeah. So it might have been a football game, or so that compromise sometimes happened, which when I look back on now, I think, you know, God was very gracious in the way that he kept me in that time. Yeah. Because I do know that was a challenging time. And I wasn't necessarily in church at that point. Okay. I was still very close to God, finding time to be able to have my own time with him. But actually being an active member in church, that slipped. But that didn't change how much I knew I was loved by God and that I love God, and what I was trying to instill in my children at that point. Yeah. So I think things became a bit more clear when we actually did separate and divorce. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I just felt, I get a bit emotional thinking about it. I want to go home. Yeah. And I wanted to go back to Paul and Gail.
Oh.
And I came to Calvary.
Oh, how beautiful.
And that was it then. I was like, and I'll never forget that. Like, I walked in and kind of, they knew a bit about what had gone on, because people do, don't they? And I just had a wonderful welcome. And it was a bit like prodigal-esque, really, a bit like the prodigal son coming home. It was just a swooping up. Gail gives very good hugs.
She does.
And that was it then. I was home, and I've never not been home since. Yeah. So, you know, that for me was a real kind of significant stake in the ground moment of like, yes, there might have been some compromises, but that's not going to be the way anymore. Yeah. I'm all out.
Wow.
You know. So that was.
Gosh, that's beautiful.
That was. I would say about probably around 20 years ago now. 22 years ago.
So thank you for being so vulnerable.
Yeah. Thank you for your vulnerability, Jacqui.
The word home you used there.
Yep.
I love that word that you just used there. some people that will be listening will think of home as where they live.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking home in a bit of a different sense there. So
yeah,
is in church. What does that mean
yeah.
in that kind of sense?
So it's like, for me, it's a spiritual home, and I mean that from a real sense of love and community and family and everything that you do have in a natural home, if you like.
Yeah.
But there's the added element of the fact that God is in that place and in those people, and they just want the best for you, and they want what's right for you. And we all know that feeling, don't we? Those of us who love God and are part of a local church community, there is nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like it.
No.
So to feel at home and welcomed home, well, it was just amazing. And that feeling, I want to replicate for other people.
Yeah.
You know, like when they're looking for something and they're feeling a bit lost, that's just a lovely thing to be able to do.
Amazing.
I know we want to talk a little bit about raising 3 kids in a minute.
Oh, I
just want to give you an opportunity. Obviously, we've done the real life show because we want people to be listening who can relate to these things and to be able to learn and learn from people who are on the other side, maybe, or still journeying it a little bit. And so people listening might be going through maybe some feelings that you felt in the marriage, maybe they're post this moment or whatever. They might know someone in this situation. What would you say to somebody who's going through or coming out of it? Is something, if you could say one thing to somebody right now who's doing that, what would you say from a place of experience?
It is difficult, and I think, you know, what I found was a real kind of anchor was looking for little glimpses of God in things. Now I know that sounds a bit crackers. But things like, and you know, this is an example, and lots of people have different examples. So tiny glimpses of God. So I went to see the divorce lawyer, okay, and I was very keen to keep the house that we were in. We moved to our dream house, the 4-bedroom detached, very nice, and I wanted to keep it, and I wanted to do everything I could to keep the kids in that house.
Yeah.
And the solicitor said to me, "You need to sell it. It will be a millstone around your neck." Now that's from the Bible, a millstone around your neck. And I kind of thought, "Ooh, is this the Lord trying to tell me something?" You know, at the time, I really wanted that house. It was like, no, I'm going to keep it. There was a definite, that was something from God. That was. It was like, no, that's not right for you.
Wow.
And at that point, I thought it was, because it was a bit of a desire, if you like. It was a bit more of a status thing, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people to look for God in things, and if they're not Christians, it's like, that don't mean to say that there's not God in things.
Absolutely.
The good in things, maybe.
Yeah.
Looking for the blessings in things. We're talking about counting our blessings, don't we? But little glimpses of God, you know, don't misunderstand those little things, because they'll lead you to the big things. I think the little things sometimes are for us to kind of open our eyes, and then that leads us to the big things. And some of the big things for me was then finding somewhere else to live.
Yeah.
I'd got nowhere to live with my 3 kids. I was really scared because I didn't know what to do.
Wow.
I couldn't get a mortgage because the mortgage had been defaulted on, and I didn't know. So at that point, I was very desperate. And I'd got very little money, but I got £10 in my purse. And I came to a church meeting, and that's all I got. And I remember putting that in the offering bag, you know, used to go around. And I said, "Lord, I'm sowing this in faith because I need a house."
Wow.
And honestly, when I got home, there was a leaflet through the door for a house that was up for sale. I don't know where that leaflet came from. To this day, honestly, I do not know. I drove where that house was. There wasn't even a for sale sign outside the house. It wasn't even up for sale. And then I rang about the house, and I got it. I got that house.
Wow.
Jacqui.
Honestly, it's amazing, and it was a perfect house.
My word.
It was on the main bus route for my kids to get to school. It was everything. I mean, logic would say I should have come to live nearer my parents. You know, these wonderful people who helped me raise my 3 kids. Yeah. But that wasn't the right thing. My kids didn't need to be unearthed, uprooted from school. Yeah. They'd all got kind of friends and everything. So this house was amazing. It was like I got a mortgage, I got everything that I needed, and I honestly believe that that was a small thing.
That's incredible.
That I just sewed into believing that God would sort it. He's never left me nor forsaken me. No. You know, He's a faithful God.
He is.
He's a good God, and he you know, nothing to harm me. And that then kind of was, I don't know, the beautiful little place that we got to live together, the 4 of us. And we had great fun there.
Wow. So 3 kids.
Yeah.
It's a lot, isn't it? Three's a weird, a weird number of kids, isn't it? So you got 2 boys and a girl.
Yeah.
So we want to know one biggest trial and one biggest joy.
So, I mean, lots of trials, lots of challenges.
We haven't got all night. So.
This is the real life show, though.
And different ones as they at different ages, obviously. Yeah. So. Juggling, juggling time is the biggest challenge. Was one of the biggest. Trial wouldn't be the right word really, but challenge.
Yeah.
At any one time, they all wanted to be somewhere different. I had, I used to have phone calls in the it felt like the middle of the night, you know, from, I used to get a call that was, can I book Jacqui's taxis, please? Which was one of the 3 of them.
Wanting you
to go and pick them up. Jacqui's taxis.
I'm going to use that.
I'm going to do that. And I'd get in my car and go and pick them up. So, so again, it wasn't really a challenge in that respect. But I think emerging teenagers was really hard.
Yeah.
So when we were divorced, they were 9, 11 and 12. So we hadn't hit
9,
teenage.
11, 12, yeah.
So that was quite a challenge within a household without like a male figure, if you like. So that some of those things were quite difficult. Not that there was ever any kind of massive arguments, but sometimes this kind of like who's the boss? Who is the parent here? And that was a real challenge because, as I said before, we wanted to, I always wanted us to be open and a friendship. But at the end of the day, they've got lots of friends.
Yeah.
They'd only got one mum.
Yeah.
So I had to really be quite assertive in some respects. So I found that personally quite challenging because as an only child, I didn't want them not to like me as well. I wasn't used to the like, sibling fighting, you know. It's like, I hate you. Was never nice because I'd be like, oh, they hate me. But then
I get it, Jacqui.
But then the next minute it was like, oh, we love you really. And that, you know.
It's only joking.
Yeah. And I'm like, destroyed. So they were. But I think that the juggle was quite a challenge. Yeah. So they all went to university, lots of different parts of the country. And I was up and down the country trying to support them.
Wow.
You know, one was in Liverpool, one was in Nottingham, one was in Cambridge. Wow. So I was all over the place. But then that would be another joy because, you know, the statistics would say children from a single parent household won't achieve very much. You know, the 3 of them went on to get their degrees. They've all got fantastic jobs. They're married. They've got wonderful partners. And my prayer for them was that even though their mum and dad weren't together, and this, again, it's a little bit of God that's just amazing. The relationships that they're in, their parents, so their in-laws, if you like, have all been married for over 40 years.
Wow.
So my grandchildren will see stability in families and that kind. So that, again, that's the grace of God, that is. That's the goodness of God. And yeah, I think a real joy, and again, it might make me cry a bit, but I'll try not to. At my eldest son's wedding, in his speech, he said, everything that's he said, everything that's good about me is because of my mum. And I just lost my mind. I cried and cried. Can you imagine? I was like, I can't believe that he's not, he forgets to put kisses on texts. He's not a flowery person with his words. And then, like half an hour later, he'll send an X. I'm like, oh, he's forgot his kiss. But that, to me, was like, it's such a joy to see them happy and settled. But lots and lots of fantastic experiences along the way, like great holidays together. I mean, there's, like you say, there's so much that we could talk about. But I think for me, the constant in all of this is God, and knowing, like, what's in the Bible around advice. It sounds ridiculous when you say advice in the Bible, but some of the things in Proverbs are fantastic for bringing up families. Like, don't let the sun go down in an argument. That was one of our big things. If there'd been a Barney, we're not going to bed. I don't care what time it is. We're not going to bed till we sort it out.
Oh,
and
that's so lovely.
That's still kind of the rule.
Yeah.
The rule.
Oh,
lots there.
I'm sorry.
So good.
I'm
so
lost
good.
in this.
Yeah, it's so
Could
good.
listen to you all night.
She's chatting away.
Yeah.
I've got to stop now.
Gosh.
Yeah, but like,
how beautiful.
obviously, I don't have children. So,
No,
but
yet.
Yes, the examples of how to raise children is amazing, right there, and like putting God right at the centre. Like, even like, don't let the sun go down on a Barney. Like, I'm gonna claim that.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's not a direct quote.
no, Barney is not in the Bible.
The message.
The message version.
The Passion Translation. But I'm guessing, like, it was really hard to get kids to grasp that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for you, all the things you've been through, how God was at the centre of it, you can use examples. You can say, I'm going to put God at the centre of this thing, because he's done that, he will do it again. How did you... Was it just something that you just were persistent with, or was it like something that the kids grabbed onto
I think it was. It wasn't necessarily a. How can I say? It was like a house rule rather than it. And God says. Yeah. It was a house rule that we've stuck by, and actually other ones like words have power, which again sounds a bit like ooh. So, the tongue, you can harm people more with what you say than what you do. So that's been a real kind of, a decision in the family that it's like, no, that's not kind, you know. Again, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely. Again, this is all things in the Bible that when I was going through some of my darkest times, when my mind would wander and think about what was happening, with other people, I'd come back to that, because that's what God told me to do. That's what you need to concentrate on. So what are the good things about people? What are the lovely things about people? Don't say that about your sister. What's lovely about her?
That's great, Jacqui.
Don't say that about your brother.
Yeah.
Don't hit him that hard.
Wow.
Do you see them living it out in their families as well? Like, can you see your household being replicated a little bit?
And obviously that's difficult in some respects, because they've come together as their own household now. So they have got to find their own way. But I think being open with communication and just being honest is something that's ingrained in the three of them, even when that can be difficult, because it's not always easy, is it? No. But I think honesty with love is really important. You've got, that's not about kind of dressing it up. That's about, as I've said, that's about grace, isn't it? But they'll be giving me the, I suppose we've got to sort it out before we go to bed. Yes, we have.
Oh, they'll be watching this laughing. They'll be watching laughing. I remember that.
Oh, mother.
Wow. I hope people have got notebooks out for this one.
Seriously?
There's some absolute corkers in this.
Oh, Jacqui, it's fantastic.
So, alongside raising 3 children, you will have also had a job.
I have.
To do, and
I've always worked.
You've always worked in the NHS?
Not always in the NHS, but always as a nurse, which is a bit kind of, within my role, you don't always have to work in the NHS. You can. I've worked for social care.
Okay.
I've worked in the private sector.
Yeah.
But I've always worked in learning disabilities for 40 years.
Wow.
This year, I know I don't look old enough.
Wow.
40?
40
years
years.
you've been working there.
Jacqui, how did you do this with raising 3 kids?
Juggling.
I learned how to juggle.
Goodness me.
So there was times when my like working life had to kind of slightly change. So
Yeah.
I'd be doing a morning, a night, and an afternoon, a night, and a morning shift, all in one go.
Whoa.
So the night shift would be what we call a sleep-in. So, but I'd never sleep because I got the responsibility of people who I was looking after, but I'd be there on my own. There were 8 people living in like a group home. So that at that point, that was when the kids were very small.
Yeah.
So that would be my shift done then. But
Whoa.
whatever's had to be done has been done.
Did you always know this is like, was this a calling? Did you always know this is where God wanted to place you?
It's difficult to kind of quantify the thing about the calling. I think because the feeling of connection with people with learning disabilities happened around the same time as I became a Christian. So knowing about it being a calling is quite difficult, but I do believe it is.
Yeah.
So when I went to church and became a Christian, she's my sister-in-law still, even though we're not married. She was doing a nursery nurse training, and she started to tell me about it, and I did my nursery nurse training then, and had a placement in a special school, and worked with people there with a learning disability, and I've never felt so perfectly at home. I just love working with people who are marginalised sometimes and not seen. That's quite the thing. And my work is, some people say it's to give people with a learning disability a voice, but I think it's to give them a microphone to be able to be heard.
Okay.
That's great.
So I kind of do that in everything that I do. So it's not so much working in the NHS, but I'm passionate about the NHS. Not going to get into a political debate, but I'm passionate about that being there for people who most need it, and particularly for those who can't afford or couldn't afford healthcare if it wasn't free. You know, that's free at the point of service is like, that's how it should be. So I'm really passionate about that in the round, but my kind of driver is working with people with learning disabilities to support them. And I'm just thrilled that, like, you know, my work life and my church life is kind of like coming together, and it's just amazing. I just love it.
Yeah.
That's really cool, isn't it? You have quite an influence at the hospital, don't you, Jacqui?
Meow.
You do.
Just a little one.
It's quite a big responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been, God has really honoured, I believe, like me being faithful to Him. I've never pushed at doors. I've always kind of been that kind of, is it gently assertive? Would that be a right way to describe yourself?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, this is the truth. This is what's right. And I think finding a way to kind of speak that truth without being too off-putting. I think there are people who can win an argument but lose the person, and that's never that's not productive.
No.
So I think, you know, I've managed to really connect with some of the leaders in the organisation to be able to kind of, I suppose it's a two-way thing, isn't it? They feel that they can trust me with things, and therefore there's a bit of a kind of a mutual understanding then.
Being assertive with the truth in your field as well, that's a bold thing to do. And I'm guessing, like, some people will have seen your face, Jacqui, on photos within the Shine Foundation stuff over lockdown and over COVID, and it's something I wanted to just ask you, like from a point of view of that assertive truth. In that world, in the lockdown, in COVID world, what did that look like? Like what did your job look like in that time?
It was really hard. I mean, to be honest, none of us knew what we were walking into. Yeah. And I don't think that was because there was necessarily not transparency. I just think everybody was in the same situation. Yeah. We really didn't know what we were kind of going into. And I think, working now, it doesn't seem real. No. That we, doesn't. I had a letter given to me by the chief exec, all of us, that we had to produce to the police because we were essential workers if we were stopped because we were on the streets. It was like, you think about it now, you're like, really? Mm-hmm. Did I really have to do that? So those kind of things, it was difficult. And some of the stuff around decision making for vulnerable people, about resuscitation, what a place to have to put challenge in. Mm. But our team, led by myself, had to do that. And that was difficult. People who were terrified on their own without their family with them, we stepped into that. So not only did we continue to work, but I really felt it was right to be able to be there 7 days a week, not 24/7 because there ain't enough of us, but 7 days a week, because the weekends are long and the bank holidays are even longer. So we changed our work pattern, so we were there there was somebody there every day. Yeah. So again, it was frightening, and lots of colleagues had to do an awful lot more than we did, in respect of the hands-on care, like in intensive care and that kind of thing. But we went to where our patients were. In PPE that I couldn't even breathe in. You couldn't see any part of your face or body because obviously we didn't know what we were dealing with, really. I'd kind of described it like, stepping into a burning building. You just didn't know what it was going to be like. Yeah. So, and the expectation, I guess, was, but we were all very, committed to it. Mm. We weren't going to walk away from people because people needed us. Mm-hmm. So, you're not going to walk away then. No. It was an amazing, unbelievable, if you think about it now, time. Yeah. So I can't quite believe happened.
And people will relate to that in all different fields.
Absolutely.
Like we from a church point of view, we will relate to that. Yeah. But to hear it from that kind of field is crazy. And from a little negative maybe point of view, what's what thing you love about your job? One of the most rewarding parts of your job?
Oh dear, I suppose supporting someone who has found things really difficult to kind of have any procedures undertaken or anything like that, to actually plan an admission. I mean, I've been told by one of our anaesthetic doctors that I've got the planning skills of an SAS officer, which is quite a thing.
It's a great compliment.
I mean, it is.
And she's on our SLT.
And she's on our SLT, guys. We are in safe hands.
So that kind of thing is so satisfying because, you know that for that person to be able to get the treatment that they need is just amazing. Wow. To the point of, everybody thinking this is never going to work. And I'm like, yes, it is. So that's amazing. And it don't matter what it is, from the smallest to the biggest thing. Yeah. It can be really sad when people have not come for help soon enough. Mm. So it's not possible to kind of treat them or save them so that's really sad. That's really sad. Because particularly for people who've got no kind of subtle communication skills, then pain is difficult to kind of describe. So it could be that somebody's been in pain for quite some time, but they've got no verbal language, so they can't tell you. So by the time they get to hospital, it's a bit too late, which is really sad. And that's kind of devastating when that happens. But then you have to support that person and their family through that. So, but it's a wonderful job, and I am coming to the point in my life now when I'm thinking of retiring.
Oh,
because
Exclusive.
I'm a big age next year. Can't tell you.
I'm absolutely blown away, to be honest, by like the faithfulness, Jacqui. That you've touched on a couple of things here: marriage breakdown, family, coming into your job, and all those different things. And I'm blown away that this is who you are right now. I'm blown away that this is where you are right now. But that's down to who you put right at the centre.
Yeah.
And I'm blown away that you've done this while still being so involved in church. And at the start, you listed a couple of things that a handful of things that you do within church. And as we weave into this now, like why also alongside that, which is a tough job.
Yeah.
Big.
Why do you feel like it's so important that you are so involved in that? Why have you said yes? Why have you said yes to all these things and are involved in church that much?
It's not kind of anything other than I love people. I cannot explain it any other way. I love people. I don't care where they are, who they are. I love people. Yeah. So if I can help people, and it's interesting really that I have these conversations with my youngest son not long ago, and obviously we were talking about life as you do, and I was kind of saying to him, he was almost saying the same thing to me. He was like, "Now come on, Mom, you're doing a lot here," and I said, "Yeah, but I love God and I love people," and he said, "Magic, he's just amazing. Don't forget that you're people too, Mom."
Oh yeah, that's great.
So I guess there's that within it as well, making sure that you don't burn out, and you do kind of make sure that you are not being selfish, but making sure you're looking after yourself in a way that does mean that you can continue to add value. And I know that sounds a bit like, what do you mean add value? But that's key for me. But I love people. I love supporting people. I love being with people. But I also don't mind being on my own. Go figure.
That's great, isn't it?
As an only child, I had to get used to that, really. You know. So
you serving is there. What you've maybe alluded to a little bit there. So through this whole process, what has church meant to you during that time?
It's been a constant. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? And I have my moments with the Lord, as we all do. And I kind of said, I remember saying not that long ago, it's like, Lord, I haven't done much. You know, like if you look at people who are kind of up on the stage, or not necessarily, mega church preachers, but you kind of think, Lord, have I done enough? And again, I had one of those moments when the Lord just said, you've kept going. You have run the race set before you. And that's enough for me. It's like, you've kept going. When other people have maybe not kept going, and I don't mean I've always been able to run. Sometimes I've been on my hands and knees dragging myself. But I've never felt, and never wanted to say, I've had enough. That's just not in me. I think because the reality of who God is and what sacrifice Jesus made to, he didn't consider himself, equality with God something to be grasped. So he came and lived with us. So who am I to say anything other than I'm in, kind of thing?
Yeah.
But that don't mean it's easy.
No.
It's not easy. And there's disappointments. But I have to believe, and I do believe, that God knows what's best for each and every one of us. Once we partner with him, and that's the key for me. It's like, he don't take over your life, you partner with him. Then you're gonna see what's right for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we know better, don't we? Like, I thought that big house was the one I wanted.
Yeah. But it wasn't. That leaflet through the door. So one of the teams that you're on is Alpha.
Oh.
And we love Alpha.
Oh.
It's running currently.
And it is currently running.
How's it going?
It's going incredibly well. We have 21 people.
Wow, that's so good.
21 people at Hickory's,
which
is amazing.
Yeah.
We've got a fantastic group that are meeting. So week 3 this week, and we're really kind of it's wonderful to see the group starting to kind of form connections with each other and gel together, and it's really
Shout out to Hickories as well.
Hickories,
love them,
amazing. So we've been having a great time, and again, it's just wonderful to watch people. And you know, Matt calls me Alpha Mama, which is really quite Matt Price.
Guest one on the first episode.
He's like, yeah, come on, Alpha Mama. And I count them all in on a Sunday. It's like, oh yeah, there's so and so. Oh, there they are. Oh, yeah, they're happy. Oh, they're okay. Because we've seen really great people who were, as Alpha says, curious about God. And being curious about God is key. Because if you're curious in any relationship, you're interested in finding out more, aren't you? So staying curious is really important. I think that's what Alpha's all about this time. That's one of their kind of, you know, are you curious? And I think, staying curious is really key. Wanting to know more, asking the questions, asking the difficult questions.
So somebody watching this right now might hear Alpha and go, what on earth is that? Like, I've heard that word, but I don't know. Is it a course? Is it whatever?
Yes.
Explain to the listener, or the watcher, however you're listening or you're watching on YouTube. What does Alpha look like? Obviously, we said Hickories there, which is a restaurant. It's not a meal.
No.
It's not a meal or anything like that. But
although we have coffee.
So if someone signed up for Alpha, which is a course, a 12-week course.
12-week course.
What would that look like to them if they signed up?
So it is, as you say, a 12-week course. It's video content. We meet early, we have coffee, we have a little bit of time together where we'd have maybe a little chat about our week, how that's been.
I've heard you have milkshakes.
We do, although I've not yet.
Have you not?
No, I think I might have to partake.
Hickories milkshakes?
Like the big ones? Oh. That's what I've heard.
Are you accepting any new team members?
We could negotiate. So we have that. We have a welcome drink. We watch a video together, and then there's an opportunity to ask questions about the video. And there are some set questions, but that really is just to kind of get people to think about things that's been mentioned on the video. So lots and lots of topics. So who is Jesus was one. Was last week's. Why did Jesus have to die? How do you pray? Just kind of information sessions, really, to know a little bit more about the Christian faith, really. And it is about knowing more. There's no pressure there. There's no kind of, pressure to become part of the church or anything like that. It is just a really relaxed atmosphere where people can ask anything, and I mean anything. Like, Pastor Tony gives examples like, did Adam and Eve have a belly button? I mean, I can't answer that because I'm not Pastor Tony.
Oh, no, that question has never entered my head.
Ever?
Neither mine. But Pastor Tony.
Did
he have an answer?
No. I think we've got to go for the 12 weeks and then we find out.
Yeah, Tony will tell you.
Tony will tell us. So we have a great time together. And I think one of the things that I found when the sessions end is that everybody wants to stay together. And that's great because then we can introduce them then to things like, connect groups, social, all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't have to end there, which I think is really good. I think that's been something that we've learned along the way. It was particularly difficult in lockdown, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But we ate pizza together over Zoom. What a thing. But again, some great people who we've learned, to love and are part of our family now at Arise who came through. That. So, it's an amazing time. We have a great time together.
I want to give you the opportunity to say something in a minute, but thank you so much for coming on, Jack. And
thank you, Jacqui.
This has been fabulous, absolutely fabulous, and to hear your heart for different things and your heart for people is absolutely crazy, and I love it. I love to listen to it, and just for someone. So keeping on the Alpha subject. you're talking about curious people there, and someone who's curious who's listening right now. If you could say something that someone, you have the opportunity at Alpha to do this week every Wednesday. If you could say something to someone who listening right now who is curious about God, who wants to find out a bit more, what would you want to say to them?
I think if you're really curious and you seek God, you will find Him. He will never let you down. So it is about that kind of intentional looking for God. Yeah. And I've said, in the small things sometimes you see God. But I think, if you really are serious and you want to know more, Alpha is there for that. Arise Church on a Sunday is there for that. Yeah. Talk to people who have got a faith. I think, again, is really important. But for, I'd just say, you will never be disappointed. You will never be disappointed because God has always promised to never leave us, to never let us down. Right. And the more you look, the more you will find. So, never be content. Just keep looking. Stay curious, because that's the key for me. It's the same in any relationship, like I've said. If you're dating someone or whatever else, once you start to want to know about that person, it becomes less about you and more about them. Yeah. So the more you ask, the more you find out, the more it is about them and the less it is about you. And that's what I think it's all about, really. That and particularly with Alpha, it gives that opportunity. Yeah. But there's lots of stuff out there that people can kind of tap into. Yeah, wow. But that's what I'd say. Stay curious. Yeah.
The best thing we could possibly do right now as well, if anyone is listening to that and thinking, this is something I need to be on, we'll put the link to being interested in Alpha. If you're interested in being a part of it,
that would
being
be great.
Part of the next course, we'll put the link in below. If you're on Spotify, it'll be below, and if you're on YouTube, it'll be in the description. Any type of that, wherever you're listening, we'll make sure that's there, because this might be someone's next step into asking those questions, which is going to be fundamental, isn't it?
And we would we run twice a year, so it's not that people have got to wait a long time.
No. That's brilliant.
We'll be there.
Thank you so much, Jacqui, for coming on.
Jacqui, we thank you.
That is amazing.
Thank you for having me.
We do something at the end of our episodes, which, as a watcher and listener, I know you're aware of this, where we take a selfie.
Tradition.
It's a tradition.
I'm not that good at selfies.
Don't you worry. I'm going to put it here.
Oh, yeah.
And if Sarah, you go into that side, and Jacqui, if you stand up and just...
Oh,
can you crouch? Are you coming around that way?
What are we doing now?
I thought it was going to...
Oh, okay.
You go there.
Okay.
I've got to crouch.
See, this is where cameras just go out the absolute window.
Sorry.
I would say, like here.
Oh, I've got to crouch like that.
It's going to be really loud here as well. Is this right? Is everyone happy?
Tell us where we're looking.
We're looking at the green dot. I just love this moment. Ready?
Yeah.
I took three.
That's going to be good.
That is a really good one. Look at that.
Oh, that's great.
Love it.
It's great.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Jacqui, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
The real life show is just... We're loving it, aren't we, Sarah?
It's
been amazing, and we love to hear people's stories because we hope people relate. It started with that series in January. No, that series last year, where we heard some stories, and then January this year, and we've heard some great stories so far. And we can't wait to go a bit deeper and do that. We are available on Spotify, Amazon Music. What's the other one? YouTube, obviously, and it's available on something else. Oh, nobody's so good at this.
This is your bit.
It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Audible. Yes.
Hear that?
We're working on Apple Music for those listeners on there. We're working on it. But thank you again to Backyard Cafe for hosting us. Come along, grab a vegan sausage. Take Jacqui with you.
Come on.
Come to church on Sunday and say, Jack, do you want to go backyard this week?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
And she'll say that.
Yes,
Sarah,
please.
thanks for joining me again.
Always a pleasure. This is a pleasure.
It is. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jacqui.
And Jacqui. And we'll see you next month.